Shai, has there been a third facility in baseball to close in the last couple of minutes we didn't hear of, or are we just down to 2 today? Is it just the 2?
I mean, look, everything's going to close. I'm assuming that everything in Florida is going to be shut down soon because, I mean, who would have thunk that not taking the coronavirus seriously would have repercussions? I mean, nobody could have seen it coming. So,
Shocking.
Yeah, I know it's a real stunner, but there's you don't want to make light of this, but you just think about 3 months ago, the initial Major League Baseball back to play plan was, let's have hub cities in Florida, Arizona, and Texas. And all 3 states are having surges in their amount of coronavirus cases right now. It really reinforces to you how fragile all this is when you're trying to return to play, return to work in an environment where a lot of people aren't taking it seriously.
Dealing with a global pandemic by hoping it goes away or went away, not exactly working, is the news of the day. Shai, I guess the question is, what's next in Dunedin for the Jays, or do you know what's next for the Jays in Dunedin?
I think right now they just want to make sure that they haven't had a spread and that the player in question has, whether or not he does have it, then go through the contact test and tracing process that needs to take place if he does. If he is in fact infected. So I think that right now is the first step. But I think if you look at the events of the day, if you're Major League Baseball, you have to think to yourself, all right, well, there are 3,000 plus, close to 4,000 new cases a day in Florida right now. Do we really want to be sending our players or gathering our players here at multiple sites? Do we need to adjust our plan here? I think that's an interesting question. But it's a super complicated one for the Blue Jays because, as things stand right now, they can't come to Toronto. I mean, they're hoping, they're working towards that, but they could find themselves, if Florida becomes off limits and all of a sudden they're homeless in a couple of different ways. And now things are super complicated for them.
Breaking news, the San Francisco Giants have closed their Scottsdale Stadium facility today, according to Andrew Baggerly. Quote, after one person who had been in the facility and one family member exhibited mild symptoms and were tested, according to Canadian Farhan Zaidi, club is awaiting results. That is the latest facility to be shut down. That is the third spring training baseball facility to be. I was being slightly facetious off the front of this interview. Little did I know, 5 seconds later, we'd have a new facility. Sorry, Timmy, go ahead. Jump in.
No, I was listening to exactly what you were saying there. And it seems like in these areas, Shai, and I was saying this off the top, we're going to have positive tests. And we saw this in football when a bunch of coaches reacted to their positive tests by saying, how the hell are we going to do this? But we're going to have positive tests. It's going to be how teams and leagues react to them. And I remember your column about acceptance. And there seemed to be this acceptance that we were going to have these positive tests and work through them. But if there's these numbers, are we getting to the point where that acceptance may go away?
I mean, I think right now, if you're the NHL and Major League Baseball and the NBA is really paying attention, but you could view this as, a quick test of your systems and how functional they are, whether they're going to be effective, right? If the Phillies one, they've got eight cases already, and if they manage to limit the spread and manage to do some more containment there, then you can say, okay, well, we potentially have tested and seen the effectiveness of our process, and we think that we can learn from this and we can make it work during the regular season. Alternatively, you could look at it, and some players may look at it and say, you know what, I'm not taking any chances with this. Like, people have brought it to their family members. Heaven forbid there's a really negative outcome for one of those people. I think that right now everybody's got to sit back and wait and kind of see just what the total fallout from this is from a health perspective, and then say, all right, does this really impede us, or do our processes work? And you don't know what you don't know what you don't know until you discover it. And I think the leagues right now are learning what they don't know to a degree. And I think we'll have to see how this plays out before we can make determinations. But this isn't a trial run that you would necessarily want or hope for. But all of a sudden you've gotten it, and perhaps the leagues can create some comfort with their players by how they react to this, or maybe they'll discover that this has all been for naught, and they're best off not continuing onwards.
Shai Davidi of Sportsnet here on Tim and Sid. Shai, for the better part of a few weeks, we've been watching the players and the owners fight over $300 million or whatever. What was the conversation like today, if there was one, between Tony Clark and Rob Manfred after this news broke? What has this done? What has today done to those talks, do you think?
I'll tell you what, the owners' arguments for a shorter season suddenly seem a little bit stronger today. I think it's funny that everybody's gone on and on about a second wave. And in a lot of parts of the United States, including where many teams are located, they've never really gotten through the first wave.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think that, I understand the economic argument from the player side, and I think it's completely justified. I think they're 100% in the right. But all along, there's a part of me that's felt, you know what, go shorter, just get it done, get it in. Because the worst thing is starting and then having to stop and then not finishing, right? So, does 5 games ultimately make a big difference one way or the other? No. But if you take the economics out of it and you take the I guess labor justice element out of it, or labor fairness out of it, I think there is a case for a shorter season just because of these circumstances. I'm not on Team Asterisk. I've never been on Team Asterisk in terms of validity or legitimacy of a season. Our entire existence is an asterisk right now. So I'm more in the, do what you can do, make the best of what your situation is in these uncertain and crazy times. And I think that the owners can certainly look at the players and say, hey, guys, let's not haggle about this. Let's get started. Let's see if we can finish it. And let's try to do it as quickly as possible. And if you're the players, you may not like the financial repercussions of that, but you may be saying, hey, let's at least get this started so we get some more money in before the coronavirus takes away the entire season from us.
Yeah. And that's the part of the equation that Major League Baseball has to figure out. And, we heard from Dr. Fauci about what might transpire in the fall, and not listening to him has been at your own peril over the last little while, at least in the near term. Here's something that I was reminded of, and I just wanted to get your opinion on this. And this might be what we're seeing right now for both of you guys. But I was reminded by one of our guys about KBO reporter Daniel Kim. He was where I got my information from very early in Korea's return. And they had a system in place that looked like this. 1, if a player shows COVID-like symptoms, 2, they shut down the facility immediately. 3, all players get tested, everyone gets sent home, and until your test comes back negative, you're not allowed back into that facility to resume your workouts. And this did happen several times with the KBO before the season started.
Well, there's a couple of things that stick out to me there. One, the general populace in Asia, in South Korea, in Taiwan, and Japan, has been far more disciplined in their physical distancing and other measures to try and prevent spread than they ever have been in the United States, right? So, they were starting from a better place. 2, they would have arrived, they would have had all these protocols already in place, whereas, right now, it's just people are coming and going into the facilities, and there are certainly some regulations and steps that they're taking, but some of the health measures, the health testing that are going to be part of a return to play, those haven't been put in place yet. So I think from that perspective,
I hope
where
you're pulled
Major
over.
League Baseball.
I hope you're pulled
I
over.
am.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yield
from
to
that
the right,
perspective-
everybody. Yield to the right when you hear that.
Definitely. But from that perspective, I mean, that could have been, send one of those to the baseball season because they could use.
It's poetic to have that happen in this moment, Sean. That was poetic in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, but yeah, it's like the Major League Baseball as far as I know, they're not testing everybody when they enter, when they come in, the way they would during the season. That it's right now, it's much easier for someone to potentially bring the virus into a facility. Maybe they're doing temperature checks and things of that nature, but a real actual test right in the moment that's giving you a result, which is part of any sort of return to play protocol, that isn't taking place yet. And that's potentially why we are where we are right now.
What a day. Shai Davidi of Sportsnet. We really appreciate it. Let's talk next week. Let's see what the weekend has in store, buddy. Have a good one.
Yeah, hopefully one of these days we can have a happy conversation again.
Hey, hold on. Let me end it this way. Hold on, Shai. Let me end it this way. Happy Father's Day weekend, buddy.
Happy Father's Day. There you go.
Thank you. To you guys as well.